For decades, modern science has been on a quest to protect our brains from devastating diseases. But honestly, the path has been filled with a lot of dead ends. So now, researchers are turning to a really surprising source: ancient herbal medicine. Today, we're going to explore how these remedies, used for centuries, are being put under the microscope and studied for their incredible neuroprotective potential.
So let's start with a number that just kind of sets the stage for how big this issue is. $1.1 trillion. Now, if we just use Alzheimer's as a case study for brain health, that's the projected annual cost of care in the US alone by 2050. It's a mind-boggling figure that really shows you the scale of the challenge we're up against and why we desperately need new solutions.
And that leads us to this really critical question. For decades, the standard approach has been to find that one magic bullet drug to stop these diseases. But with over 200 drug trials for Alzheimer's alone failing in just the last decade, it's become pretty clear that this is an incredibly complex puzzle. So if the path we're on keeps hitting a wall, where do you even begin to look for answers?
Well, the answer for a growing number of researchers is to look backward. They're actually turning their microscopes to this vast library of knowledge in traditional medicine, these ancient systems that have been thinking about and treating the mind for literally thousands of years. They're asking a pretty simple but profound question. Could the key to this very modern problem be hiding in ancient wisdom?
Okay, so first things first. Let's use Alzheimer's as our example to really get a handle on what makes these neurodegenerative diseases so difficult to treat. At its very core, neurodegeneration is a disease of decay. It's this slow, progressive breakdown of the brain's entire communication network. You see, the neurons start to degenerate, and the connections between them, those are called synapses, they get lost. And that loss is exactly what leads to that devastating decline in memory and our ability to think clearly.
For years, a ton of the research has focused on two main culprits. Think of it like this. You've got these amyloid plaques, which are like sticky junk building up between your brain cells and gumming up the works. And then you have neurofibrillary tangles, which is like the internal highway system inside the cells just completely collapsing. So almost all the drug development has been aimed at clearing out one or the other of these two things.
And this, right here, is the crucial takeaway. The fact that all these single-target drugs have failed points to one really powerful conclusion. This isn't a single-target problem. It's more like a multi-front war on the brain, right? It involves inflammation, oxidative stress, and so much more. A single magic bullet just can't win a war. You need a whole army.
And that idea brings us to the ancient toolbox. Let's take a look at how these traditional systems of medicine approach health and why that's really catching the eye of modern science.
Yeah, we're not talking about some new health fad you saw on the internet. We are talking about deeply established medical systems like Ayurveda from India, traditional Chinese medicine, and Native American practices. For thousands of years, these systems have been using plants and herbs to treat all sorts of complex conditions, including enhancing cognitive function.
Now, this slide gets right to the core philosophy. You see, unlike a modern pill that has one single active ingredient, traditional medicine typically uses the whole plant. The thinking is that the hundreds of different compounds in an herb don't act alone. They actually work together, synergistically, creating this combined effect that's way more powerful and balanced than any single piece of it would be on its own.
Okay, so let's move from theory to the actual evidence. What does modern research really have to say about some of these so-called brain-boosting herbs?
This table gives us a fantastic look at that whole toolkit approach. Just look at the variety here. You have ashwagandha, which helps rebuild connections, turmeric acting as a powerful anti-inflammatory, and then cat's claw directly inhibiting both those plaques and tangles. You see, they're not just doing one thing, they're fighting that multi-front war we were just talking about.
Okay, let's zoom in on ashwagandha for a second. The science is showing that it promotes something called neurite outgrowth, which basically just means it helps brain cells sprout new branches to form stronger connections. It helps restore synaptic function, that communication network that gets destroyed in neurodegeneration. And get this, clinical trials have even linked it to better working memory and executive function, which is your brain's ability to plan and solve problems. Next up, we've got turmeric, which contains that famous compound curcumin. Its real power lies in being a potent antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. Think of it as a calming agent for the brain, dialing down all that chronic inflammation and oxidative stress that fuels neurodegeneration, all while helping block the production of that sticky amyloid beta gunk.
And then there's lion's mane mushroom, which is just fascinating because it stimulates something called nerve growth factor, or NGF.
This is a super important protein that helps maintain and organize our neurons. So lion's mane doesn't just protect what's already there, it actually encourages the brain's own support and repair systems. And studies are showing it leads to real improvements on cognitive tests. Pretty cool, right?
So we've seen what these herbs can do. Now let's dig into the central scientific idea of how they do it. And it all comes down to the power of synergy.
This slide really just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the standard pharmaceutical model, a single drug designed to hit one specific target. It's like having one key for one very specific lock. But on the right, you have the herbal approach, a single herb with hundreds of compounds that can hit multiple targets all at once. It's less like a single key and a lot more like a whole toolkit.
So here's the breakdown of how it works. Step 1, a single plant contains a literal cocktail of hundreds of active compounds. Step 2, these compounds don't just go after one problem. They can hit multiple targets at the same time. They can reduce inflammation, fight those damaging free radicals, and block sticky plaques simultaneously. And step 3, this creates a synergistic effect, where the whole thing is way greater than the sum of its parts, giving the brain this comprehensive defense system.
So where does all this leave us? It all sounds so promising. But what's the actual path forward for bringing this ancient wisdom into modern medicine?
And this slide just perfectly captures the current reality. The promise is huge, right? These herbs often have a long history of safety, and their multi-target toolkit approach seems tailor-made for a complex disease. But the scientific hurdles are also very real. We need more large-scale human trials, and scientists have to solve some key problems, like how to make sure our bodies can actually absorb these compounds effectively, and how to standardize the products so you know exactly what you're getting every time.
Which leaves us with this one final thought. After all these decades of searching for a single magic bullet, maybe the answer isn't about choosing between the old ways and the new. Could the real future of protecting our brains lie in a powerful blend of both, combining the holistic wisdom of the past with the rigorous validation of modern science? It's a question that researchers are now, finally, starting to answer.